You don't need to say a single word to completely capture a man's attention. In fact, sometimes it's the way you touch him, quiet, intentional, and perfectly timed, that speaks louder than anything you could say. The right touch, in the right place, at the right moment, can flip a switch in his mind and body that leaves him thinking about you long after you've walked away. Let's talk about the top 5 places to touch a man that turn him on, and why how you do it matters just as much as where. Imagine this, you're sitting across from a guy. The chemistry is undeniable. You're laughing, teasing, and there's that slight tension in the air. You want to take it a step further, not with words, but with a touch that says everything. Now here's the part most people miss. Touch only works when the timing and context are right. You could do the exact same thing in 2 different moments and get completely different reactions. One could leave him electrified, the other could make things feel awkward or forced. That's the magic and the challenge of using touch as a form of nonverbal attraction. Let's take a simple example. Let's say you lightly brush his arm while making a joke. If you've just met, and there's no real connection yet, it might come off as a little awkward, or worse, mechanical, like you're trying too hard. But if you've already been building tension, making strong eye contact and exchanging playful back and forths, that same touch can feel like a jolt of energy. It becomes charged, meaningful. That's because the emotional temperature of the interaction sets the stage for how physical contact will be received. So many people make the mistake of thinking touch is just about where you touch, but really it's about when you touch. Think of touch like a spark. You don't throw sparks on dry wood the second you walk into the room. You wait until the fire has started. The warmth, the tension, the teasing, all of that is you gathering the kindling. Once that fire is flickering, even the softest touch can feel like fuel to the flame. That's when it becomes irresistible. What makes a touch magnetic is not just the physical sensation, but the story it tells in that moment. If he feels like the touch is part of something meaningful, like you couldn't resist reaching out because the chemistry was just that intense, it has a completely different effect. He doesn't just feel your hand on his skin. He feels wanted. He feels desired. And that's the part that gets inside his head and stays there. Timing also involves reading the room. You have to be emotionally present enough to sense whether he's open to connection in that moment. Is he leaning in when you talk? Is he making eye contact? Is his body language open, relaxed, playful? Those are all green lights. If you see those cues, even something as small as letting your fingers graze his hand when you're handing him something can feel electrifying. If you misread those signals and he's distracted, nervous, or closed off, even a well-placed touch might fall flat. It's not about trying to manipulate the situation, it's about syncing your energy with his. When that sync happens, the smallest gestures carry massive impact. Think about it like music. There's rhythm, flow, and build-up. A good song doesn't just slam into the chorus, it teases it, pulls you in, gives you little tastes along the way. Touch works the same way. You don't have to rush in and make a big move. Sometimes the slow burn is more powerful than the sudden spark. Maybe it starts with standing just a little closer than usual, then a playful nudge on the shoulder. A soft brush of your fingers across his wrist when you laugh, each moment building upon the last. The build-up is everything. Context also matters because it shapes how safe and special the moment feels. If you're in a setting where he feels comfortable, somewhere familiar or emotionally warm, touch feels natural. But if the environment is stiff, overly formal, or public in a way that makes him self-conscious, touch might put him on edge. That doesn't mean you need candlelight and a string quartet every time, but it does mean being aware of how the space affects the mood. A touch in a quiet corner of a cozy bar feels different than the same touch in the middle of a crowded hallway. The beauty of touch is that it speaks when words don't. But just like words, it only works when it's coming from a genuine place. That's what gives it power. A touch that's done at the right time, in the right emotional setting carries weight. It doesn't scream, "I want you," but it whispers it. And sometimes the whisper is louder than the shout. Confidence changes everything. It's not just about what you do, it's how you do it. A touch delivered with confidence speaks volumes, even when no words are exchanged. It's the kind of energy that says, "I'm not afraid of this moment. I know what I'm doing, and I'm okay with you knowing that I know." That level of assurance can be intoxicating to a man because it flips the script. Instead of you waiting for his move, you become the one guiding the moment in a subtle, graceful way. Now, confidence doesn't mean being loud or forceful. It's not about grabbing someone or being overtly sexual. True confidence is quiet. It's the ability to take action without second-guessing yourself. When you touch a man with intention, whether it's a gentle touch on the chest as you laugh, or a slow, playful brush along his forearm, it sends a very clear message. I'm comfortable in my own skin. That's magnetic. That's what makes him lean in, not just physically, but emotionally too. Because deep down, men are drawn to certainty. When you touch with confidence, it gives him permission to let go and just feel. The difference between a confident touch and a hesitant one is like night and day. A hesitant touch feels like a question. It says, "Is this okay? Am I doing this right? Will you reject me?" And when that doubt is in the air, it changes the energy of the entire interaction. But when you're grounded, when your body language is open, your eye contact is steady, and your touch is natural, it doesn't feel like you're asking anything. It feels like you're already connected. That's when a touch becomes electric. A lot of people overthink touch. They wonder, what if he thinks it's too much? Or what if I make things awkward? But those thoughts show up in your body language. They show up in the way your hand lingers too short or too long, or in how your energy suddenly shifts. Confidence, on the other hand, brings a kind of calm. It allows you to be playful without second-guessing yourself. You don't need to apologize for being bold or for being expressive. When a man senses that calm, that control, that self-assuredness, it disarms him in the best way. What's interesting is that you don't even have to be physically dominant to be confident. A soft, slow touch can be just as powerful, if not more, than something more direct. Confidence isn't measured by intensity, but by presence. Are you really there in the moment with him? Are you feeling the connection? Are you in your body or stuck in your head? A woman who touches with her full attention, who's not distracted or nervous, makes a man feel like the only person in the room. That's not just sexy, that's rare. Touching with confidence also creates a sense of trust. It tells him that you're in control of your own desires, that you're not just reacting to him, but expressing something from yourself. That's an incredibly attractive energy, because while men often lead in relationships, they're also deeply moved when a woman knows what she wants and isn't afraid to show it. That confident energy, even in something as simple as placing your hand gently on his lower back as you walk past, tells him, I see you, I want you, and I'm not afraid of that. The beauty of it is, you don't have to be confident all the time. You don't have to have all the answers or be the most experienced. But in those moments where you do choose to touch him, make it intentional, make it real. Let your body language reflect your belief in your own worth, because when you believe in yourself, your touch doesn't feel like a test or a risk. It feels like a gift. A confident touch doesn't beg for approval. It offers presence. It offers connection. And men notice that difference. They feel it in the way your fingers move, in the steadiness of your hand, in the way your eyes stay locked on his just a second longer than expected. That's what makes a simple moment unforgettable. Subtlety is where true attraction lives. It's the difference between shouting and whispering in someone's ear. One demands attention, the other invites it. And when it comes to touching a man in a way that turns him on without saying a word, subtlety often does more than any overt move ever could. Men are incredibly responsive to the things they don't expect, the things that catch them off guard, in the best possible way. A soft touch in a moment where he wasn't anticipating it can send a ripple through his body that stays with him longer than something obvious ever would. There's a kind of psychological tension that builds in subtle moments. It's like watching a scene in a movie where the characters almost kiss, but don't. That almost can be more powerful than the kiss itself, because it engages the imagination. And that's the secret. Subtle touch works because it leaves room for wonder, for curiosity, for thinking, wait, did that mean something? Or why did that feel so intense when it was so small? That mystery creates anticipation, and anticipation is a huge part of what makes someone feel turned on. When a man isn't entirely sure whether a touch was intentional or accidental, but it felt just a little too personal to ignore, that's where the power is. Maybe your hand brushes his thigh when you both reach for something. Maybe your fingertips rest lightly on his forearm while you're deep in conversation, but you don't even look at him when you do it. Or maybe, as you're laughing, you rest your head on his shoulder for a half second too long. These moments aren't loud, but they're unforgettable. They make him feel something deeper than physical attraction. They make him feel like he's been noticed in a very specific way. Subtlety also tells a man that you're not trying too hard. And that matters because effortlessness is part of allure. When a touch feels like a move, like something rehearsed or overdone, it can break the spell. But when it feels natural, like it just happened because you were so caught up in the moment, it lands differently. It feels authentic, personal, and deeply intentional, even if it's not over the top. That's the kind of moment he replays later when he's alone, wondering if it meant what he thinks it did. There's also something to be said about the areas of the body you choose to focus on. Everyone knows the obvious spots: neck, chest, lower back, and while those can definitely be powerful, they don't always create the same spark as the less expected areas. The inside of the wrist, the curve of his ear, the space just above his knee. These are places that don't get much attention, which makes them far more sensitive to it. A light touch there, done at the right time, can feel intimate and electric, because it's not something he experiences all the time. It's not about overwhelming him, it's about catching him off guard in the most delicious way. Subtle touches are also about duration and pressure. A light graze can feel more intimate than a firm grip, especially when it lingers just a moment longer than it needs to. That extra second says something. It says, this isn't random, I meant that. And yet it doesn't scream it. It lets him feel it and interpret it without needing explanation. That's what draws a man in. It makes him want to decode your behavior, to understand what you're feeling, to get closer to find out. When you lean into subtlety, you give a man the space to come toward you. You're not pushing the interaction, you're pulling him in without force. That's a powerful dynamic because it creates emotional momentum. He starts thinking about you, watching you more closely, waiting to see if you'll do it again. It builds attraction not just in his body, but in his mind. That's what creates obsession. When someone doesn't just feel you physically, but starts to wonder about you emotionally. The magic of subtle touch is that it turns ordinary moments into something charged. You're not changing the conversation or making a grand gesture. You're just adding a tiny drop of heat into an otherwise normal interaction. But that drop doesn't go unnoticed. It spreads, it lingers, and it stays with him. And because it's subtle, it doesn't give everything away. It keeps just enough mystery to make him want more. Touch isn't one size fits all. The power of touch comes from how well it fits the moment. It has to align with the emotional energy between you and him, or else it risks feeling off. A touch that's teasing in a playful moment might feel confusing if things are serious. A slow, sensual touch during a light-hearted conversation might come across as too intense. That's why emotional context matters just as much as physical technique. The kind of touch that turns a man on is the one that feels like it belongs in the moment, not like it's been dropped in out of nowhere. When two people are emotionally synced, touch becomes an amplifier. It takes whatever feelings are already present and deepens them. If you're in the middle of a playful back and forth, maybe teasing each other, then a quick, cheeky nudge on his arm or a tap on his leg fits the vibe. It doesn't just feel natural, it adds to the fun. It reinforces the mood. That touch lands because it's saying the same thing your words and body language are already saying. This is fun, we're vibing, and I'm enjoying you. In that context, a small physical gesture can leave a big impression. Now take a different scenario. You're sitting close, the conversation has slowed down, there's more eye contact, more pauses between words, it's quieter, more intimate. Here, a soft, lingering touch on his hand or his knee doesn't feel random, it feels like a response to the quiet pull between you. If you suddenly became overly playful or energetic in that kind of moment, it might break the mood. So the touch you choose in that setting should reflect the stillness, the tension, the slowness of what's happening emotionally. That's how you keep the energy flowing in the right direction. Men are tuned in to emotional cues, even if they don't always realize it. They feel when something doesn't match. They feel when a touch is too fast, too slow, too soon, or out of place. But they also feel when it's perfect, when it hits the right note at the right time. That's when you see them lean in a little more, take a deeper breath, pause in their words. It's not about making a grand move. It's about making the right move. And that starts by reading the emotional temperature of the moment and matching it with your energy. Think about it like dancing. You can't dance well with someone if you're not on the same beat. You have to move with them, not against them. The same goes for touch. If he's being vulnerable with you, talking about something real, and you reach out and squeeze his arm gently, that touch doesn't just connect physically, it connects emotionally. It shows you're present, you're with him, you're feeling what he's feeling. That kind of alignment builds trust, and trust is often the first step to deep attraction. There's also the timing of emotional shifts to consider. Sometimes the mood between you two can evolve quickly. One moment you're laughing, the next, there's this unexpected pause where the air gets heavier. It's in those transitions that touch can be incredibly powerful if you're tuned in. A change in energy is often an opening. It's where something deeper can happen. If you're sensitive to those moments, a well-placed touch can seal the shift. You can say, I noticed that too, I felt that change. And when a man feels that you're experiencing the moment alongside him, not just observing it, his attraction deepens. Your body language plays a role too. A touch that's meant to match the moment won't work if the rest of you is tense or disconnected. Your eyes, your posture, your voice, all of it has to flow together. If you touch his leg under the table while looking away and checking your phone, the message gets lost. But if you're leaning in, holding eye contact and letting the silence speak for itself, then the same touch feels electric. It's not just about your hand, it's about your presence. Matching your touch to the emotional vibe doesn't mean overthinking every move. It's about feeling what's happening between you and letting your instincts respond. The more you stay present, the more naturally your body will know what to do. And when your touch flows with the emotion in the air, it doesn't just feel good to him, it feels right. There's something incredibly powerful about confidence that doesn't try to prove itself. A woman who owns her space, who feels comfortable in her body, can ignite a man's interest without ever needing to say a word. It's not about being loud or flashy. It's about the quiet certainty she carries in how she moves, how she looks at him, and how she touches him. When you touch a man and your body is fully relaxed, when you make eye contact without looking away too quickly, when you don't fidget or hesitate, you're sending a message that's louder than words. You're not waiting for permission to be close. You're already there. Men are incredibly responsive to this kind of grounded energy. They notice when a touch isn't rushed or uncertain, They feel it when your hand rests on them without pulling away too quickly, when you lean in without seeming nervous about how it'll be received. That's the kind of presence that creates a shift. It tells him without saying anything, and when you're in control of your energy, you immediately stand out. Not because you're trying to, but because so few people actually are. Touch becomes especially magnetic when it comes from this grounded place. A light brush on the back of his neck, a slow graze on his lower arm, a gentle stroke on his shoulder. All of these can feel electric when you're present. But if your mind is scattered, if you're overthinking how he'll respond or what it means, that energy seeps into your touch. Men may not consciously analyze it, but they can feel the difference. When you're confident in yourself, when you know your worth without needing it to be validated in return, your touch doesn't just land, it lingers. Confidence also allows you to enjoy the moment for what it is. You're not touching him to get a specific reaction or force an outcome. You're doing it because it feels good, because you're connected, because you're genuinely enjoying the closeness. That kind of authenticity is rare, and it's one of the most attractive things to a man. It tells him you're not performing, you're not trying to manipulate or impress, you're just being. And that kind of honesty in a moment of physical connection makes him feel safe, seen, and incredibly drawn in. A lot of people underestimate how much attraction is about energy. The truth is, your energy enters the room before your words do. A man can tell when you're fully present with him, not distracted, not checking your phone, not mentally elsewhere. And when you bring that full presence into your touch, it becomes unforgettable. It doesn't have to be sexual. It doesn't even have to be long. A 2-second moment of stillness where your hand rests on his for just a beat longer than expected can carry more weight than an obvious move ever could. Because what he's feeling isn't just the touch, it's the energy behind it. Being grounded also helps you respond to the moment rather than trying to control it. If you sense that he's pulling back, you can feel it and adjust. If you feel the tension building, you can lean into it. You're not stuck in your head thinking about the past or worrying about the future. You're here, now, with him. And that ability to be responsive, to be intuitive, to match his energy in real time, that's what makes touch so powerful. It becomes a language between you, one that's spoken without sound but understood deeply. Your body becomes more expressive when you're not worried about how you look or how he'll interpret what you're doing. You smile more easily. You move more freely. Your touch becomes softer or firmer depending on what the moment calls for, and your instincts take over. That's when things start to feel electric between you. When it's not just about what you're doing, but who you're being while you're doing it. The energy of self-trust. The calm certainty that says, I'm okay with being seen, and I'm not afraid of what happens next. That's what turns a touch into a moment he can't stop thinking about. When it comes to turning a man on without saying a single word, it's not about bold moves or flashy gestures. It's about energy, intention, and timing. It's the subtle brush of your fingers, the way you read the moment, how your touch matches the emotional vibe, and the quiet confidence you carry in your body. The kind of whisper that lingers in his mind long after the moment passes. Because at the end of the day, it's not what you do. It's how and why you do it. That's the real turn on.